Hello everyone, my name is Daniel and I am a rising senior at the University of Nebraska, Lincoln, majoring in biosystems engineering. Right now I'm in the biocomplexity engineering lab, and this is where I worked over the summer as part of the USDA SURF-REU undergraduate experience here at the University of Florida. I worked on a water modeling project under Dr. Munoz Carpena, and my PhD mentor Isabella and I worked on the evaluation of Terros soil moisture sensors. In order to evaluate the precision and accuracy of 36 soil moisture sensors simultaneously, my graduate student and I constructed this experimental setup, which consists of 4 identical boxes filled with sand, and it has 9 sensors in each container. As part of the experiment, we would use this funnel connected with a hose to the system to control the water table in each box. And as you can see, the water sensor is placed at consistent depth across each container so we can compare the soil moisture readings to predicted values. And the data logger collected all 36 sensors at once. After collecting the data, we need to evaluate the precision and accuracy of the sensors. As a quick reminder, precision refers to how closely the sensor readings will be grouped to one another, and accuracy describes how closely the sensor readings are to the actual soil moisture value. Here is a map of how the sensors were laid out. It's important to note that some sensors labeled in blue were closer to the drain. A second category labeled in yellow were about a mid-distance from where the water drained, and finally the sensors labeled in red were farther from the drain than all of the others. So, in order to evaluate the sensor precision, we computed the global mean of all the sensor readings across the entire experiment. This is shown in the top left figure, where the sensor numbers are labeled for how far away from the global mean each of their average values were. We found that the sensors fell in a plus or minus 0.3 absolute deviation. This is the margin that is specified by the manufacturer. What is also interesting is that the sensors that were placed farther away from the center drain tended to have a negative bias, whereas the soil moisture sensors placed closer to the drain tended to have a positive bias. In other words, the closer ones said that the soil was wetter, and the farther ones said that the soil was drier. With that in mind, we segmented the data and recalculated the precision metrics, and we found that even segmented spatially, these sensors still fell within the manufacturer's margin. This means we can conclude that the sensors are precise and are able to be used in future research. Next, we needed to compute the accuracy of the sensors. In order to do this, we fitted a soil-water characteristic curve. This is a graph that relates the water content on the y-axis to the energy in the soil, represented as pressure or distance from the water table. What this does is describes how this type of soil behaves and retains water. What we found is that the experimental data qualitatively fit the curve, with some points being right on the curve and a few being either above or below. However, the R-squared, or relation between the experimental data and the characteristic curve, was low. This is due to the limited depth of the experimental setup, and future changes could allow for more points along the curve to be fit, providing a better description of the sensor's accuracy. Throughout the summer, we got the chance to collaborate with other labs. For example, the biosensor lab, where we got to learn about the chocolate making process with Dr. Reyes. And through this, we opened the door to a future project where our setup will be used to explore a new research question in the biosensor lab. Outside of research at the ABE department, I got to explore Florida, see some wildlife, and appreciate the beautiful state that I was in. I would like to acknowledge Dr. Rafael Munoz Carpena and his help and support over the summer, as well as my 3 PhD mentors, Isabella, Rio, and Adam, for their guidance and help with the experiment, learning the background information, and the presentation. I'd also like to say a thank you to Troy for helping in the lab, as well as to the USDA and National Institute of Food and Agriculture for funding this summer experience. Thank you for listening.